Hello, folks, and welcome to Bards and Books, and welcome to Leveling Up Episode 7, where we will be discussing The Wandering Inn, Book 1, with and without spoilers. So, our previous episodes include all the books from Dungeon Crawler Carl, all 6 books, so I will link the playlist for that, so you can check that out if you so wish. But we have begun a new series, and as always, I am joined by my good friend and LitRPG enthusiast, Nick. How are you doing, Nick?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
All right. Well, this was a new take for both of us. This was a new undertaking. So, let's start with you. What were your thoughts on The Wandering Inn? What did you like? What did you dislike? And I don't know, what would you relate this to in terms of lit RPG as a whole? Some other stuff.
It's very different, but I mean, I really enjoyed some of the character, character creation that they did.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. Some very interesting side characters. Some very interesting characters that our main characters bump into. Very interesting. They're very creative in that way. Even some of the monsters and races they made in this book were very interesting, very cool.
Yeah, and it was long. This was the longest.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we did this on audiobook, as
Mm-hmm.
always. And let me say right off the bat that Andrea Parsneau, I believe, the narrator, did a great job. It was an absolutely
Fantastic.
great narration, a lot of emotion, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of good work.
Great with the different voices, different
Yeah,
accents.
yeah,
Very, very good. Like guy voices, girl voices, all one person, and
yeah,
so many characters as well.
hmm
So
yeah,
props
yeah.
to her.
Great narration for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, again, super very long, and I know that this series was originally a web novel, right? So that's how it came about in terms of popularity, I believe. But yeah, I don't know if I think it was taken just straight from the web novel and just put into audiobook format. I'm not sure if there was some revision or some condensing of anything, because it's it's incredibly long, and I guess it would make sense if it was just
Just,
taken everything.
I think you said that they're gonna make like a revised version
Yes,
or something like that.
I did
Yeah,
hear something like that. Yeah, yeah, because well, you
um,
think about the web novel format, and it's like a chapter by. I think it's like just a chapter by chapter every
just
week or something, just to
as she does
enhance
it,
the plot, right?
just as the person is writing it, just kind of putting it out there, which is crazy, fantastic,
Hmm
you know. But before it came to audiobook format, maybe it needed to go through an editor. I think if this was a maybe even 25-30 hour book would be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully the revised version is somewhere around that length, with a lot of just focusing on a lot of the more important elements. But the other thing too is this is we got a lot of a slice of life type of story. So
For sure.
right, the main character just discovering this new world, finding her place in it, and kind of interacting with these other races and whatnot. Um, but here's the thing: even with that, it felt like it was much slower than it maybe should have been.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, there were points that dragged out a little. I was
Yeah,
a little tedious to get through. Let's say.
I
Um,
also didn't agree with a lot of the choices that they made. Like, I mean, not that, everybody would make different choices, but I feel like, you know, most people would make different choices, and
yeah,
be more excited in the world that they're going to be in. I get it was tough in the beginning and the world
hmm
is scary, but
character choices and maybe some motivations as well were, yeah, definitely a lot of the choices. Like we go through some scenes that play like these are long scenes, drawn out scenes that are supposed to impact you or serve a deeper purpose.
hmm
But I
character development.
personally, yeah, but I didn't connect
Hmm.
during those parts, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if
And
it's just not for us, if this would connect more to other people.
you know, being a web novel, I think plot is one of the main focuses here, which you can see, right? The plot progresses, and it's a very long audiobook. Um, and yeah, I guess in a web novel format, you'd want, in order to be
Yeah,
able to be cranking out a chapter or whatever every week, you'd need to quickly come up with some plot points or some sort of
spread it out.
development,
Yeah,
right?
feels very
So
like Pokemon, where you're just like there's just cranking out like episode after episode, and there's like not a lot going
yeah.
on.
Hmm.
Feels like that, yeah.
Hmm. So I can see if you're following the web novel format, this is something you could get addicted to, or
Yeah, can't wait
really
for
enjoy.
Thursday when this comes out for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, I could see that kind of really growing on you after a period of time.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, in like an audiobook format, and just thinking about this as a work of lit RPG, in surrounded by all the other great stuff we have out there, I was pretty mediocre on it.
Yeah, it's a tougher read for sure. For the at least, yeah.
Yeah, but again, the revised version coming out, and now
maybe
I'm
that
thinking we maybe should have waited a bit, but you
maybe
know,
we'll
we're,
wait for the other ones to be revised before we get back into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, it doesn't take too long.
Nah, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But oh, we'll see how the revised version is.
In terms of the world building was all right. I
Yeah,
do agree with you definitely with the character creation, the creatures creation,
side
the races.
creators,
Yeah, the
the
races and like
races,
some of the creatures there.
the
And
monsters.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the monsters. I like definitely in the second half we get a lot more intricacy with the world, um, and some of the characters too. We get like more POVs too,
Hmm.
So it started to get pretty interesting around the halfway mark after that. But I think it really focused on the slice of life story with the main character and the inn and all that. Um,
Slice of life is fine, but there was no real like it'd be cool if it was slice of life, but there was growth. You
hmm,
know, you kind
mhm.
of like it just felt like the end stayed the same and she didn't do anything.
The growth with the inn was
Like
definitely a lot slower than I would have liked.
if it was like constant, like every day, it's like oh, and then this thing changed, and it this is now the thing, and this is now a thing, but it's like multiple episodes where like nothing, multiple chapters and chapters where nothing really happened. Nothing really grew. She just left things there for a while. It's like
Hmm.
it would be cool if there was some growth in the end, or
Yeah,
for the other characters, there was a little bit more
yeah,
going on.
yeah. And let me just preface this by saying I did not dislike this audiobook. I was just very middle ground on it. Just
I could
some things got pretty enjoyable, and then some others were just slow going and tedious to get through.
I could definitely see this getting better.
Hmm.
It's just, yeah, when you look at how many books are out there, especially, you're like, okay, this is eventually down the line, this is going to get really good. But it's like you look at it, it's like 40 hours, 40 hours, 40 hours. It's like, oh God,
Yeah.
how much time do I have to spend till I get
Hmm.
to
So we
where
get
this
to
is
the very
really gonna kick in, and you're gonna be like bare knuckling your chair or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, those are our non-spoiler thoughts. Anything else you want
Yeah.
to share before we really dive
I
into
mean,
this?
for
Or
non I mean, I don't want to drive anybody away from this, but
hmm.
I just kind of want to be clear that this is if you gotta have to have some time. This is not
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
I'll sit down and listen to this like an hour a day, and this is going to be a good listen for me for something like that. It's like this is something, at least for this book, you're going to have to power through. If you have time to like power through, like if you're like I gotta, it's not going to be your exciting when you're on the treadmill. Like if you got, if you're like cleaning the house or something like that, maybe you can. It's almost something like where you have to work. You have to be at work, and I can just listen to this and be at work, and
Hmm.
just do something else while you're listening to this. This is not like a sit down, focus on this read, at least not yet. Maybe some of the later books, it'll be like that. I think you got to have to. This is something you're gonna have to work through. But it's not that it's bad. There are some really cool parts in this. Eventually, I gotta say, you have to, no spoilers or anything like that. At least get to the 10-hour mark before things start to turn around and get interesting. That's pretty rough.
Who do you think
That's
this would
pretty
appeal
rough.
to? Who do you think, like, what kind of reader or listener do you think this would appeal to? Someone who
You have a
wants
lot of
the
time on
more.
your hands. It's like you gotta
You've
have a
got a
lot of
lot of
time on
time
your
on your hands
hands.
for sure. Yeah,
You gotta
you
have,
got a lot of
yeah.
time. You wanna plow through something that's longer, because a lot of people want those really longer audiobooks. I think
If
it's
you're a guy, if you're like a guy who has to like mow lawns for a living, like, and
yeah.
you gotta like put something in your ears, there you go. There's something that it's gonna hold you 40 hours. That's a long time, man. That's a
hmm
long time.
It's
That's
one of
like
those reads where you
over
want
4 days worth of work.
where you want you want something enjoyable to just pass the time and like enjoy kind of passively, and something long to keep that going, like in
I mean,
in
it's
a
one of those
single
ones like
story.
maybe a book where you don't really have to focus that hard.
hmm
Like if you got to still do something
Yeah,
that you can't just like, it's not a book where you have to like really focus on. You can kind of just listen to it,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
don't have to like really focus. And there's some really good parts in this book. There's some really good
yeah.
things that happen, like really good writing in this book.
hmm
Just not all of it. So you got to
yeah.
get there. And it's a lot of just trying to wait it out.
And you get those hints, like you get those
Yeah.
hints here and there where you're like it's alluding to something much more massive in the future,
Hmm.
like all these intricacies that
And
are
this is,
just getting discovered. And I'm assuming it does get a lot better because people people stand by this series,
mhm.
like people just rave about it, and the ones who love it are diehard fans from what I've seen.
Yeah,
So it's definitely got a following, and
definitely. I
it
mean,
can be
there's like
very
9 books or
enjoyable for a
something
lot of
like that
people.
on Audible.
Yeah, it can be very enjoyable for a lot of people. So I think I think we've spoken our piece for the
Yeah.
non-spoiler section.
Well, what about you? What did you have? Do you have any like things that really stood out to you? Like this is something you should read this for?
Well, I think I mentioned it, like the length and the a lot of the slice of life story um, can appeal to passive readers and those willing to invest, even passively, willing to invest in a single story that spans multiple very long books. So if you're willing to put in the time, then this will obviously be something you come to love. So
Hmm.
that's the way I feel about this. For me, being the reader and reviewer that I am, going through having a ginormous TBR and wanting to get to all these not only traditional but self-published books that I read and review as well for my channel, I am going to have to put this on hold after this book, and maybe we'll come back to it later. So I think we've
Yeah.
decided that we will maybe revisit this at a later time. After we go through maybe some palate cleansers or another series. I think we've decided that we are going to start He Who Fights with Monsters next, book one. So that'll be coming up after this chat. And yeah, again, I was mediocre on it. Some things
Hmm.
I enjoyed, some things I really didn't enjoy. Um, but I got through it. I got through all 40 plus hours. All
Good
right.
for you.
That's,
Hey.
that's a feat. Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
you got so much on your plate. Do you do your all the other books you have to read, or not have to read, but you're reading as well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
hmm
this is a lot for me. I don't really have time in my spare time to read, so
Yeah.
audio books are kind of my way to go. So
hmm That being said, let us jump into spoilers now and go through the story. There's a lot to go through. Um,
not
yeah.
really.
Not really. Well, we'll condense it as much as we can. So
Yeah.
spoilers are beginning now for everyone who has read this, or if you want to hear the spoilers, thank you so much for tuning in if you have up to this point. And now let's start the spoilers. So, anything you want to start off with, or should I get this going here?
Go for it. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so main character Erin, we're introduced to first. She arrives in this world. Um, She gets harassed by goblins, stumbles upon the inn, cleans it up a bit, becomes an innkeeper. I found it very interesting, her getting the innkeeper class and the way that she is leveling up, um, aside from like in terms of relative to everybody else in this world. So
Right.
she's like the outsider in this world, and she's leveling up awfully quickly in terms relative to the natives, right? We come to learn that, which is very interesting. And we also learned that, I think we got a section where we learned that the classes they do obtain and the levels they do obtain are directly relevant to the character's own, feelings and their motivations, what they want to excel in and what they don't care for. So you could be a warrior or a tactician, very good at doing that kind of stuff. But if you if it doesn't appeal to you in terms of a career or anything of that sort, you won't get the levels for it. You won't get the class for it. It's all up to the character, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was super interesting. I haven't come across something like that in the.
No. I mean, it is odd though, because I mean, when she goes and becomes innkeeper, I don't think she even really wanted to be an innkeeper in the beginning. It just kind of got that class, and that's kind of how the world works. But
And you
I
wonder
don't
if
know.
it's something more inherent or within
Yeah.
the character that they don't even know that they want or they need. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like she wanted that. It seems like she wants peace, right? She's not a
Mm-hmm.
very violent person,
Yeah.
and like it's a peaceful class, innkeeper, right? You
For
just
sure. And you just wants to meet people and
Yeah,
like talk to
exactly.
people and wants to be social.
Like at the same time, she's kind to everyone. Like look at what the signs that she put up, right? No killing goblins. Like she's kind to the goblins, and everybody's kind of
Even
like,
after they attacked her.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna turn a new leaf. I hope they can turn a new leaf, you know.
Hmm.
Very interesting. Usually in most uh books and stuff, they're like, yeah, they're the fodder monster and they're terrible. And there's a lot of books where they're described as excessively terrible, and even you know, uh, when it comes to like bodily harm and just like the worst of the worst,
Yeah. Hmm.
despicable, But in this, she's like, yeah, they still have that kind of thought to them that people think that they're like that, and she's just trying to like change the narrative. She's like, well, maybe they don't have to be,
Hmm.
and trying to like push for growth in them, which is really interesting to see growth in even the monsters around. Like, oh, that goblin, even though
Yeah.
they're kind of bad creatures, seeing the growth and like almost like
It's unexpected growth.
unexpected.
You
Yeah.
see it in the creatures. Like you
Mhm.
see how when she's playing chess with them, they're gaining the tactician ability and leveling up. It's like, oh, that was very unexpected. You did not
Also
expect that.
gaining social skills,
Hmm.
She's
Yeah.
teaching them social skills, and they're like on how to like treat others. And
Hmm.
because of that, what like and the tactician, this one of the goblins becomes a great leader.
Let's dive into some of these side characters. So we meet Relk, who is a Drake. We meet Kilbkitch, who is a Antenium, and I guess the other main side character would be what's his name, Pisces, the
Pisces.
Necromancer,
Mm-hmm.
who I thought was very interesting. When Pisces was introduced, he's like this mysterious old man who's a mage, right? You know he's going to play a big role. Um, and the fact that he's a necromancer, because we get some history about the land and how it was sort of ravaged by a necromancer who, brought forth this army in the past.
Not
And
him.
not
Not him. But yeah.
for sure not him.
Yeah, for sure not him.
Okay, okay. Because
He's
I was thinking like, is he the guy? No, no,
definitely not.
definitely
'Cause
not.
at least, maybe,
Hmm.
but at least what they're saying is like this guy, no, not a chance. And this guy, you're dead, Pisces, no,
Because he's the only
not him.
necromancer we've been introduced to, but
Yeah,
he could very well be someone else.
and it's kind of interesting that that's a frowned upon thing. But he's not like oh he acts like he's like this great, I'm this great magical wizard guy. Not really though. It's like I got beaten up by a frying pan. is trying to like scare people in town to like steal food because he can't eat because he's too busy studying to be a better magician.
Yeah.
That's this kind of whole spiel. Very great character, great, very interesting side character. Now, I mean, also the races in the world. You're talking about Antinium. I've heard of like hive mind monsters, that kind of thing, but having them be an actual race, a hive mind race, and bringing that into a story,
Yeah.
really cool. Like how does this hive mind race interact with other cultures in the world? And it's like that was a super cool thing for me. Like
Yeah.
talking like Kilbikich. God, it's a brutal name, but
Kilkit.
Kilbikich
Yeah.
is very, very interesting. You see, it's like, kind of doing like that, almost like a Sheldon thing, very straight cut. These are the words. You say it like this. That's what I'm taking it as,
Hmm.
kind of character.
Yeah.
Very straight cut, by the book, by the rules, and that's kind of
Yeah.
like what the Antinium are. You know,
And I love the
um,
click that she put in their accent, you know.
yeah.
Moving on, the humans, we know the humans in this world are kind of despised a little bit, aren't they? Like a lot
Well,
of the
it's
characters
just
don't
different
like
cultures in
humans.
different areas, right? That's
Hmm.
their whole thing, where it's like
Yeah.
where Ryoka is, humans are that's the main culture. That's the main people around,
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
in I think it's south. I think it's south. Is like that's where a lot of the I guess quote unquote monster races. Like that's your drakes and your dwarves and your
Yeah.
whatever.
And there are like human settlements, like all
Yeah.
human settlements, and it begs the question: are they native to this world, or were they all transported? Because you know that bit we got where humans are just randomly, sporadically being transported to this world, and they're like, "Oh, where am I? What's going on?" That was
And
a
we
whole
don't
bit,
even
and it's like,
quite know what's going on with
yeah,
that.
it's like, why is this happening? And that was very strong element of mystery that gripped me for a while.
I want to see if you remember this. Do you remember the other humans that were sent? So you know of the two. Do you remember
There
the other ones?
were okay, so
They don't bring them up
no, I,
very
I know
often.
there was like some random, a
They
whole
don't bring them
bunch
up
of
very often.
random humans,
Yeah, they don't bring them up very often.
and there were two in particular, I think,
There's the
talking to a
twins.
king.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
twins
twins.
talking to a king.
The twins were talking to a king, and then there was
Yeah.
some other ones that were like, there's a bunch of random ones that were that met some guy in the woods somewhere. Who knows
Mm,
what's going to happen with them?
yeah.
Very interesting. Those seem very interesting. Not super interested in the King twins thing. I'm not sure. Like, I don't. There's no. Didn't really give us too much background on the twins.
Yeah.
But a lot of the main characters, they didn't give, other than Ryoka, didn't give a lot of background on Aaron, other than she liked to play chess.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, they didn't really talk about family very much, which is
Hmm.
kind of odd, being them being so young and then being just yanked from their world. Basically, they turned a corner, went into the washroom, and now they're just in a different world. And they kind of bring it up a little bit, like, oh, thought about family or thought about my mom or something like that. And then they're just like, I'm not going to think about that. Where I think they should have delved in to that. That would have been more human.
Mm. Yeah.
But
There were some parts here where we got a serious look at like Erin's humanity and her
mm,
morals, where she was burying the goblins that were killed,
yeah,
right?
really
And
showing off that sense of morality, the sense
mm,
of life and death, and that she was struggling with, where she's not everybody could probably handle a world that's like that. Like people think like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I do great in a world like that. I'd love to be in an RPG.
Hmm.
Till you're there, and then you're like, well, maybe there's no revive button. I'm not going to go be able to revert to the next save. What happens when the sword's put in your hand? You know.
Yeah. And then she was attacked by that goblin chieftain, which
Hmm.
she beat. And
Hmm.
then, I mean, that was unexpected for everyone else because they did not expect a goblin chieftain to be beaten by a girl like Erin, right?
No.
So that's another point that brings up, like, are the humans being transported here like just superior in some way? Do they just have advantages? Like they can level up. At least Aaron can level up so quickly, right? She can beat a goblin chieftain. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how is that going to play more into the rest of the story? We'll see.
Go later on with Aaron, like she starts to like, you know, Aaron meets a lot of people in town. She eventually, when she finally meets some characters, they come and check out the inn. What's going on?
Yeah,
Like, hey, there's a town like just over there. You can just go right over there. This town, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Here's this
Um,
girl who's an innkeeper who beat the best guy in town at chess, right?
yeah,
And
yeah. Chess is a new thing in this world too. That I'm not sure how chess came to be. It's like relatively new, but for
relatively new, yeah.
Aaron, she's like chess has been around for thousands of years. Where in our
Hmm.
time, so she knows all these secret moves. Well, not secret moves, but like
Like
well-known moves that for
yeah,
us
yeah,
new to them. And they're just like,
hmm
how do you do that? And
yeah.
it's quite interesting that she's able to use that one piece of knowledge from before. And they always talk about this. They talk about it quite a lot in the book. It's like, oh, I have this knowledge from before. And I don't know about you. If I was transported to another world, I don't know how much knowledge I could really bring with me. I'm not as knowledgeable. I'm
Well,
not going to
yeah.
be able to create a new automobile. I'm not building PCs.
That's another issue, right? You'd be thrown into a new world. You'd
I
be
got some
discovering so
knowledge,
much new stuff. You'd
but I don't
probably,
know. I don't know how much I could. It's like if you're going back in time, how much knowledge can you take with you?
yeah.
I don't think my audiobook or video game knowledge or what I have with me is going to help me.
What about the possibility for like disease or something? You don't. This is
Yeah,
entirely new world.
definitely.
That's
There's
just,
probably a lot of that. I mean, it's cool to talk about like, was it a ball of soap or is it they do bars of soap in this one? Is a ball of soap is a different one I was reading.
I think this is bar. I think it's a
Yeah,
bar soap. Yeah.
that's different than when they were talking about ball of soap. But it's they kind of talk about that a little bit. Like,
Hmm.
oh, using soap. This lady's using soap, but they don't. Not everybody's like who's like they talked about. She's like got to went into town to get a toothbrush. That's good that they have toothbrushes. You never know. Like they might not have just
Yeah.
not have toothbrushes. You know.
Yeah. It seems to be a mix of
Yeah.
older times and modern times.
There's
So, I
magic,
mean,
right? So a lot of it's just like just like I
yeah,
magic my teeth clean.
yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
let's get back to these elements. So, um, let's let's touch on another interesting race, Kilbakich's race, which was the Antennium. I like how the hive mind, yes, but it's cool how there's a possibility for these workers to become very unstable and then sort of develop
In,
individuality, right?
yeah, it's I'm not sure what it's about. I gotta say, I think maybe part of this the one of the I don't want to say hidden themes, but it kind of seems like it's a theme that it might not just be part of the writing there, where it's actually like it talks about. I don't want to say developmental issues or anything like that, but it seems like there's a lot of the characters have different uh, traits,
Hmm.
like maybe autism or multiple personality disorder or ADHD, which clearly one of the characters has. Because I have ADD, so ADHD, I know about that, and so I'm like, this character, like I see what that's going on and what they're trying to describe. This
Yeah.
character has something that you know I've seen that described as,
Hmm.
uh, and I see some of that. Like, okay, well, maybe this is why they're acting like this, or maybe this is why they're written like this. I could see that with the Antinium, where it's like, where they have maybe they're trying to describe it in that way, where it's like, okay, they'll have a hive mind. Once they get individuality, maybe they go crazy because you know they have like almost two minds. They have the mind where everybody else is doing what they're told, and then they have their own individuality mind, and they're warring. It's like I have my own mind and my own thought processes, which is different than everybody else, and it's just fighting.
And touching on more of the Antennium, you know, Kilbakich is interesting because so when he was revived, right?
Oh, we're going right.
We're
Yeah,
going,
all
hey,
right.
we're going right. So when he was revived and he came back, it was interesting because it was unexpected. But then before that, we got his ominous meeting with the Queen, right? And we didn't get too much of that, but but you knew there was something more going on there. Some sort of plans being concocted, and Kilbakitch
Mm.
is, pretty vital in some way. So the fact that he came back, it was unexpected, but at the same time there was something there, like there must be more to him. He can't really be dead, because of that meeting. That's what I found.
I understand. I understand. Albeit, it was the very early in the book for me, and I was like, to be honest, after he died within what 10 hours,
Yeah,
something
something
like
like
that.
yeah.
30 hours later, I kind of like, oh, you were coming back, okay. To
Yeah.
be fair, I was like, oh, I forgot about you almost. They brought it up, kept bringing him up, but I was like, okay, well, there's growth in other characters now because of that guy's past. I was a little surprised that he came back, but it could be this could be big later on. There's more to the Antinium. They always say like, oh, we don't really ever die though. We're just become one.
But there's definitely going to be more to Kilbakitch, because
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he comes back and just something about him seems a little off. I feel as though might get a little bit of a darker side of Kilbakitch, you know?
I mean, for me, what's really interesting is the other ones,
Yeah.
Knight and uh, was it Paul or Steve or something like that. All the other Antinium that played
Okay.
chess
Yeah.
and all became
Pawn.
individuals. Pawn,
Was it Pawn?
fantastic
Yeah.
growth. Pawn is like the first one. Pawn
Hmm.
was the first Antinium that became individual,
Yeah.
but also the Antinium were such a cool race. And I
Yeah.
didn't when I first heard about them, I'm like, okay, when I first started off talking about them, I was like, okay, these people, they really grew.
Yeah.
And all the different types of ants. And as far as we know, it's like, I mean, if they go from like the regular ants in our world, there's a lot of different types of ants. It's not
Hmm.
just warriors and drones. It's like there's lots of different ants that like take care of things inside the hill and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah.
really interested to see how deep that goes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then to learn more about the queen too.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the other main character then, Ryoka.
Yeah,
Did you like who was your favorite character, first of all? Did you like Ryoka, or did you like Aaron more, or did you like a side character more?
I like the side characters more.
Side characters more? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
fair.
I know.
I
All the
actually
monsters are really cool.
yep. Well, I actually enjoyed Aaron more than Ryoka. Like, Ryoka was interesting in that her character, like, we got a lot more of her backstory, and her character had a little more, I guess, intensity. Like, her rage was a big thing with her. She had a
Mhm.
lot of pent up rage, right? Because of a lot of things from her past. So that made her pretty interesting. And it's funny? I could actually relate more to Ryoka. Like,
Mm.
I could relate to all that rage and anger, and the reasoning for it, and the way she was feeling, and the hopelessness and whatnot later on with her.
Mhm.
But something about her, maybe it was a little excessive. I don't know what it was. Something just didn't click with me as much as
Self-destructive. Self-destructive.
self-destructive.
Yeah. I just felt like it's like, where the average person, even somebody who does have, even somebody who's going through a lot of those issues. I mean, not everybody. Some people just can't turn it off, and they get into a mindset and they just can't
Yeah.
stop. They get angry and they just got they're attacking everybody. They get into a state where
Yeah.
it's like even people are like, "Hey, just take it easy, stop. You're hurting your friends now," and it's still got to go for it. It's like, do you not see where you are? You're still
Yeah.
throwing hands, and nobody's trying to hurt you. Nobody's trying to fight you, and
Yeah.
that's just something that I don't really relate to. But maybe I'd see a lot of people could relate to that. So personally, for me, it's like I'm like, stop! What are you doing?
Yeah, I feel
But
like there must be something much more going on with her, because
mm,
I don't
I
think a
think
lot of people could relate on the level
yeah,
that she's at.
I kind of feel like
So,
this whole story is a lot to do with mental health.
yeah,
You
mental
know,
health. Yep.
yeah. I mean, just from the way that how how things are going on in a lot of the girls' minds, how they interpret things, how they say things. You know, how it's a lot of just like big feelings. Big feelings. So like, look when they describe stuff. It's like, it's like I feel this way, and they'll repeat it. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm tired. oh, I'm
Yeah.
tired, oh, or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, or I'm so angry. You can't tell me what that then I won't feel this way again. Brr.
That
It's
was one
just
point that was very like driven deep to the root is
just very visceral,
yes,
right?
very visceral.
Yeah.
People like people's emotions and their mental state and whatnot. So yeah, that was a point that was driven home, I think a little excessively to my liking.
I just feel like maybe this should be like if we knew this was a book that this was about, maybe we were supposed to just kind of interpret that this is about like people that maybe have health problems.
Mhm.
We would be able to like uh, understand the book and where it's coming from a little bit more, because we don't. We're like, why are they doing this? I don't really
Yeah.
quite understand. And now
Yeah.
we're trying to like maybe figure this out now. It's like maybe this is why it kind of flipped back and forth. Like Ryoka in the beginning, I didn't really understand, and then I really got invested in Ryoka in the middle of her
Mhm.
story in this book. You know,
Yeah.
and then it kind of fell off for me there in the end, where it was kind of the opposite for Aaron, where the beginning I kind of like after maybe 8 hours when they finally, I think 9 hours was when they introduced Ryoka.
Mhm.
At the 9 hour mark, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get invested into Aaron, and they bring Ryoka out, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well now this person, I'm not very invested in Ryoka anymore. We're not
Mhm.
very invested in Ryoka. More invested in Aaron. She's starting to grow,
Yeah. I felt that too. As soon as we
and
got introduced to Ryoka, I was like,
it's like
I want to stay with
just
Aaron a little longer."
yeah, it's just like she's just starting to get some growth in her
Yeah.
character, and
Mhm.
it's like oh, you just yanked me away from that. Oh,
Yeah. That's
which
yeah,
which is,
fair.
but it's like she's like I try, probably like you got to think of this as a web novel where it's like okay, well I finally I figured out what I'm gonna do with this character, or like now I'm trying to like you spent so much time with this character, like well I want to make a new character now, do something else, come back to this when I have more thoughts.
Mhm.
Understandable in that, but it was tough.
Hey, this is a this is was a very interesting point for me. What did you think of, when Ryoka broke her leg and then
Hmm.
Magnolia offered to heal it for some information, but she refused. She was very adamant about not divulging any information about her world for possible repercussions, right?
Well, this is the whole thing we come back to where we were talking earlier, where it was like, how much knowledge do you think you could bring back? Like where
Mm,
she's like, she was like, I was a sports shooter, and I know a lot about chemistry. Like I know about nuclear weapons and stuff. Like I don't know, can you like I don't know how to build a nuclear weapon. She thinks that she could tell her how nukes work and how they could kind of figure it out, or guns. And like I don't want to be the person who brings guns to this world
right.
where I mean they've already got fireballs. Like I don't think the guns are gonna, they're it's a very overpowered, but like when there are people like shooting lightning bolts and fireballs, I don't think guns are gonna make a massive difference. But
Mm,
she was like, I don't want to be the person who brings guns to this world. I could understand where she's coming from, where she's like, I don't want to. She's just thinking about like, you know, wars and like, I don't want to be the person to bring war to this place.
yeah.
So I can understand that. I don't. I think I don't know what Magnolia's thing is. Is she trying to find secrets like that, or does she want to know more about ice cream? You know, Uh, it could be very innocent, but I think that she's just kind of partially she's in her own head, and a lot of the time Ryoka is in her own head. You know, she's got a lot of inner demons that she's fighting,
Mhm.
and I don't know if it's. I mean, I
Did
think
you
I would have given it for me. I would have given it. I would have sold everybody out for that at that point. Having a shattered leg, I have a broken foot for like, and it was for like 3 months in a casket. That was brutal.
yeah.
Can't imagine having a shattered bones. You
Yeah, did
know?
you find it interesting how we got first person and third person POV for Ryoka, you know? There was some
Mm.
interchange there and it was odd. I didn't like it was subtle at first and then I finally realized it and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like, if anything, it kept me on my toes for the for the book.
Yeah,
It kept me paying attention. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a little change here,
yeah.
and I haven't really come across that before, where we get both third and first person for one
No,
character.
I mean, and Ryoka kind of goes from like a character that in the beginning if they first tell you about it, like, oh, I'm running and this and that, and there's a lot of complaining in the beginning
Hmm.
when they introduce this character. But by the middle, she becomes kind of like a badass. Like, I run and I don't give a crap. You know, other runners are like, they won't do dangerous missions, and I'm just like, I don't care. I'll go run into the thing. I just want to run. Like, I'll run right into the middle of a war zone while these
Yeah.
guys are fighting. These adventurers are fighting a lich, and I'll run right down there and I'll hand them their potions, and then I'll run right back out. I don't care. And this is what I love to do. I want to run. I want the challenge,
And
and
she's been there for a while. Like, when we
mm,
get introduced to her, she's already an avid runner for the, her work, whatever she's doing.
mm-hmm.
And so I suppose when we had her identity crisis, when she kind of broke down, it was interesting because we already know that she's been here for some time. And
Yeah,
so now it's really starting to affect her, I guess. So,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, there must be some health issues there, mental health
Mm,
issues there. I mean, for one thing, she was like, she loves to run. It's her favorite thing, and I don't want to knock. I don't want to say anything bad about this character or but it's like she gets to do a job that is her favorite thing, which is to run. And
yeah.
there's like politics, and it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But she was good to go into a corporate thing when she was back in the real world, and she didn't like that. She didn't want to do that. She wanted to run and she wanted to listen to music, and she gets to do that in this world.
Hmm.
And it's like she's doing a lot of complaining about the world where she gets to do exactly what she wants.
Yeah.
She's her favorite thing in the world. She gets to do a job where she gets to run, and that's her favorite thing. And sure, there's some politics, but at the end of the day, she still gets to do exactly what she wants for a living, which is,
Yeah.
who can do that? I don't even do that. Nobody does that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. That's a fair point you bring up. So,
I feel like
um,
that's part of, maybe this is when things that she'll grow into, she'll realize like how actually perfect this world is for her. Maybe she just needs a few more things. There's a lot of By the end of this, there's a lot of heart wrenching things that happen to her. So,
maybe it has a lot to do with the fact that maybe she's just an extreme introvert as well, and the fact that
mhm,
she has to interact with all these different people, these different creatures and races and she also has an enemy there that she really does not like and really does not like her.
mhm.
Maybe that plays a big role, but she's going through a lot of stuff, and I can,
It's social interactions are tough in
yeah,
every world, in every way, in
true,
every environment, at every work,
true.
every job, all parts of
So
life.
yeah,
You
who's to
know,
say that she wouldn't have gone through all this in the normal world if this never happened, right?
yeah. People suck. Apparently, they suck everywhere.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
So, I
And maybe
mean,
that's why I
it's
related to her on that level, being an extreme introvert myself?
yeah, I could see that. I
Yeah.
just, I definitely see that you could like see yourself in that character a lot more than I can. Like, I'm not as introverted. I'm still relatively introverted. I still have a
Mhm.
social battery. Eventually I get tired. I'm like, I'm done now. There's a lot of things where I'm like, I would put myself in that social situation where I've never put myself in that social situation that I'd understand that.
Yeah.
But I could see Aaron a little bit more, where it's like you kind of like get locked into a place and you're like, I just don't know how to change things. Like, I don't know what I should do to change things. I get kind of stuck and you're like, okay, what do I do now? Like, do I just keep going? I guess I just keep doing what I'm doing.
Speaking about Ryoka more, I will say on one note, one thing that I felt that I didn't enjoy, a big
Mm,
element that I didn't enjoy personally, and this may be invalid, I don't know, but the fact that there was so much telling in this story and
mm,
not a lot of showing in like a
mm,
interesting way. There was just a lot of characters talking about their past experiences and just monologuing, in their head, that kind of thing.
Where it could just be a flashback. Just take us there. You're in
Or
written
just
form.
or just put us through an experience that shows us that this person has some knowledge here or has some experience here or something more is going on,
Give us a flashback kind of thing.
a little more
Like
interesting sort of, I don't know.
go through her like something like if like I know about guns or I know about gunpowder. I know exactly how to make it. Instead of doing that, just maybe give us a little bit of like a show us that she knows that. Like
In an
be like
interesting way, exactly. Yeah.
exactly be like show her like do us like a a little flashback of her in chemistry class or like learning how to make that kind of stuff or like with her dad in the woods or with her instructor, firearms instructor or something like that. And it's like
Yeah.
going through like some grizzly boot camp.
Why don't I'll bring up another character right now before we start talking about the conclusion. Um, let's talk about Ghazi, this legendary hero with many eyes. Um, she's very interesting, a renowned hero. She's definitely high level, and she comes across Aaron, and she seems pretty nice,
Mm-hmm.
um, very friendly.
Another
But
very interesting character.
yeah, but you got this moment where it's like she's scheming in her head to revive her king or something, and
Wake him
Aaron,
up or something like that. Like he's
yeah,
the sleeping
and she's
king or
talking about
something.
how Aaron and Pisces could be vital
Yeah.
towards this.
And then eventually adds in Ryoka, just like,
Mm,
oh, that person's interesting. He might be interesting enough to wake up my king, or Aaron might be interesting enough to wake up my king. And
yeah,
now she's going on this journey to find Ryoka.
yeah. I think Ghazi is definitely one of the most interesting characters for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and speaking on that note, when she met Aaron,
Mm-hmm.
that was when Aaron killed a whole bunch of spiders, right?
Yes.
She killed a
Yes.
whole bunch of spiders, and then she was having her sort of crisis at the same time, talking about how,
One of her
her,
many crises. One of her
yeah,
like 50 crises. Yes.
yeah, talking about death and taking
Yeah.
lives, and
Been a
then
lot. Yeah. It's the whole
this
goblin
odd
thing
this
again.
odd part where she runs back to the fire to save this baby spider, and then realizes what's the point or something, and throws it back into the fire.
Yeah. It's one
That
of
part
those
was a
things.
little odd for me.
It's one of those things where it's like not something that I can relate to. Like I don't understand.
Yeah,
Maybe I would have I get where she was probably thinking like she's like I could do this, maybe I could do that. But maybe I would have asked before. I mean, you've already killed so many. You've already watched so many die at that point
it's
that
almost like
like and you're just like
selective.
very
It's like
selective.
she cares about it sometimes, and other times she doesn't think about it. That was a
Yeah.
little part that was gnawing at me, just this selective um, remorse or care for life or whatnot. Like, I get that she's a very kind person. She's very
Yeah.
hospitable, but
And she was heartbroken the whole time. It seemed like she was, oh yeah, she's heartbroken the whole time, but she was using a mirror to see who was behind her for when they creep up on her and getting going out of the way so they jump in the fire. It's like hey, you're being very tactful about this, but at the same time, it's like you're still killing them all. And I mean, there's spiders.
I mean,
I can't imagine you're being that caring about a spider in your house. It's just crazy
yeah.
spider that's killing people. It's like you're not. I don't know.
That was one part of Aaron that really, that just at the back of
I
my head the whole time. I was just thinking, what
yeah.
is the point of this, or what is this
Why
supposed to show exactly?
she didn't show the same way. What about the flies? Did she care about those acid flies?
Right, the flies.
She didn't seem like she has like jars full and she's killing thousands of flies.
Yeah,
Like the spiders have more feelings than the flies? Is it because the
yeah, that was
flies were
odd.
babies? Is it because it was a baby spider? Like
I don't know, but
I can't imagine they were cute looking. They're spiders.
yeah,
It's literally a phobia about spiders. But this is just artistic, this is maybe they're, trying to show some growth in the character or trying to it's the same thing you were talking about maybe with like it being a maybe a weekly novel online. It's like where it's like, okay, well, I got to put something in here, so some growth in this character, or this is what happened, and
or
this is
some
why
sort of
she's feeling
dilemma
bad.
that
Exactly.
you can keep in your head for what she's thinking or what she's going through.
Yeah, and she's just having a terrible time of it,
Yeah,
honestly.
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
But Gazi, just in general, is very cool character. Very like your first kind of like, I think, gold rank adventurer. Very OP character. Everybody's like, give her space. She's a named adventurer. Look the heck out.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
shit could happen at any
Fair.
second.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What do you think about the Horns of Hammerod? Now, these were some of my favorite characters. Now,
Okay.
not all the characters were super memorable.
Yeah.
You know, even now, some of their names are escaping me. But just the whole storyline from the beginning to the end of the Horns of Hammerod, general run of the mill, like adventuring party. Like, this is what you think about when you think about any, lit RPG. You're like, this is what's going to happen. It's your D&D party. You've got, you got your fighters, your warriors, your wizards. You got your half elf. You've got your minotaur, barbarian, and
Mm-hmm.
just really cool characters.
Yeah.
All the adventuring parties were really cool, where they had like, the hunters and the all the archer group, and they had the silver spears, where it's like basically a bunch of Valkyrie group. All
Mm-hmm.
those adventuring parties is just like, that's usually your lit RPG characters.
Yeah.
And she was able to do these characters very well, describing them and building these parties and
Mm.
having different characters,
Yeah.
with their own thoughts and feelings. And it like, I really enjoyed their whole, from start to finish,
Yeah.
all the adventuring parties.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. At that point, I had zoned out a little of the story. Like
Oh, really?
when we got to all like many more characters, I was having a good time following intimately these few characters at the beginning, and then the
Mm.
whole Horns of Hammerod and all the other characters, I had zoned out a little bit. I could not
They
remember
were
for the life of
sprinkled
me.
in,
Yeah, well, I couldn't for the life of me remember all their names. Like I
No.
remember the Minotaur dude for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember
Half elf.
their dilemma with Ryoka, and then her
Oh,
storming off, and then them going to the cave, or what was it, to
the
do a
crypt.
mission. Yeah, the
Yeah,
crypt,
they're
do a
the
mission, and then
dungeon.
what was it, the Skinner thing that attacked them?
That's like the best part for me. This is my
Yeah.
favorite part of this book. Was, I mean, some of the stuff with Ryoka, it was like, this is the part where I was like, I don't really get why Ryoka is sabotaging herself like this. And
Mhm.
this is a big part in the book, and I could see that this is a big part going forward. She like upsets. She gets upset, and she's like, "You want to 1v1 me, bro?"
Yeah.
Basically. And she's like, "All right, I don't have any. I won't take a class. I'm not doing a class, but I could still kick your ass." You're like, "Oh yeah, well, let's fucking do it then. Let's practice fight." She's
Hmm.
that, which is probably the wrong thing for Ryoka. She's always got some anger issues, and she fought. At that point, she just saw red and just
Yeah.
like fought everybody, fought her friends, fought friends, the whole 9 yard. And they're like, okay, you need to go away for a little bit. When we're done with this crypt thing, we could talk again, but you need to
Okay.
go for a bit. That's
Yeah.
basically the end of their fight thing. And
Yeah.
she just went running off and crying or whatever, being like having her whole self thought dilemma, where she's like talking to herself, like,
Yeah.
why am I like this? He's like, everybody else is bad. That was like that kind of thing that they're doing,
Having her crisis. Yep. Yep.
having a crisis.
Yeah.
But the crypt, that was just so well written for me.
It's
That was my
dark.
favorite part. Super dark,
Yeah.
so fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was probably I think some of the best writing that was in that book was that
Yeah.
whole crypt scene.
And then the Skinner
Best
comes
writing.
out, to
Oh,
the city, and then coming up to the inn.
what a great character. What a great monster. That's like the whole, and just the warming up to the monster, where it's like they get into this fight and they're just like, yeah, but we're not going to back out yet. We put so much money into this, even after we got ambushed, and we're going to take them out anyway. And they did this whole thing where like they pushed through and they killed all those people that ambushed them, killed the zombies that had ambushed them. And they're just like, all right, now we can go in and we'll search for treasure and we'll fight some more and we'll, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
avenge our fallen, put money, gold in their grave or whatever, give their families money. It's like, great, super cool. And then it gets real dark. And it was like from everything, it was like, it was super realistic dark, like Game of Thrones level, like death stuff. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
there was no like, and then they survived. Spoiler section, they all die.
Yeah, a lot of them died. And then when it came up to the end and how Aaron and
99% of people died.
yeah, yeah. But the way it got taken out, what were your thoughts on that? Aaron, right? And was it some of the goblins?
Considering that all these was it silver rank adventurers?
Yeah.
Were fighting and died, like casting like fireballs and crazy spells, and I mean the whole fierce thing was like, that was like, okay, this is like some serious, like, even if the character wasn't, even if Skinner wasn't that strong per se, just a fear thing. And how they described the character, just like this, they're ripping people's skins off, just like, yoink.
I think it got taken out with some acid, correct? And
no, it was like, I think Aaron jumped on its back and then used a kitchen knife that she cut herself with earlier in the book, that she almost bled out with or got like sepsis or something from, and cut a cube out, and like there was like the monster was inside looking at her or whatever, which was just like, I'm not 100% sure. It was like some sort of like red stick monster or something, very skinny. But basically, there's these red spots on its hands where if it grabbed you with the spot, it would just rip your skin off.
Okay.
And then put it on itself. And I guess it had all these layers, and underneath it was just like a red skinny stick monster. Then the goblins killed that from earlier. I mean, if they're gonna have to kill the monster off, I get it. Get to kill it off. But you had all these crazy characters going on. Maybe
just getting it from the inside sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe they could have brought in what was the named adventure again? Like the maybe Gazi could have showed up. I mean, that would have made a lot.
She was looking for Ryoka at that point, was she not?
Yeah, it was like Ryoka ran past Gazi, who like knew her name, but she just was like, peace, and just ran on past her.
Yeah.
And but
But yeah, it was an interesting fight there and an ending. And speaking of Torin, we haven't even mentioned Torin.
We haven't mentioned Torin yet. But before we do that, though, we overall, the whole crypt part, and the monster there, perfect. If that was a story, just on its own, if that was a story, 10 out of 10.
Wow, so you really like that? Okay.
That was really good. It was really dark, well written. The horror was good. Even like they stopped stardiness of it, but like how they just, I mean, how the feelings of the characters were, even just like breaking down and like making you feel like constantly like, oh, but are they gonna get away? Oh my god, this is happening now. Oh, but can it get away now? Oh, Skinner didn't take her because she was half elf, didn't want her skin or whatever. Can't you get away? Oh, she got bit in the leg. Oh, she's cast her final spell or whatever. Oh, the Skinner doesn't want her though. Now that the zombies, oh, she's running away. Can she get away?
Yeah, fair enough. Safe to say that was your favorite chapters.
That was my favorite chapter. It was actually like, it was like probably the best part of the book.
Okay.
I don't know if it made it worth 40 hours to get to that. I'm not sure. But I could see if in the other books you get more stuff like that this is why it would be popular, because that was fantastic. Fantastic writing.
Well, the most intriguing part for me around that time was Torin the skeleton getting
Mm-hmm.
that gem from the monster.
Yes. Oh, it's like very end.
Yeah,
But
very
yes.
end. Yeah. But I'm
But
like, as soon as that happened, because as soon as we get introduced to Torin, he's a gift
mm-hmm.
from Pisces who is supposed to serve as a security for this inn for Aaron, and he's just sort of jambling around, helping with stuff here and there.
Could be a
And
cool
then,
book all on its own, just torn. Just be
yeah,
very interesting.
yeah.
Just seeing like, okay, well, I was born as a warrior zombie,
Mm.
but now I'm sweeping floors in an inn. Like,
And now he has this gem. It's like, what is gonna happen? What is
mm-hmm.
the significance of this gem, and what is it gonna turn Torin into, or what's gonna happen? So,
Is he gonna use it for good? Is he gonna be a new villain? You
ah,
know,
I'm
is
very
he gonna
interested.
get fed up with how Aaron's talking to him and just be like, well, actually,
I don't
why
know.
don't you go cower in a corner?
I don't know. Well, he's pretty loyal to Aaron. At least that's how he's been
Yeah, but
programmed,
he's
right?
forced. He's been programmed to be that way. But he's
Yeah,
starting to get some thoughts of his own now,
yeah,
where
yeah.
he's like, "Well, I didn't want to clean. I didn't want to fix the inn up, so I used the hammer very hard and punched a hole in the wall with a hammer. She just thought I was bad at fixing the
Uh,
place, so she told me to kick rocks. Uh,
mm.
so he
Well,
said, so because he did that, he's like, okay, I'll do that, so then I don't have to work, and I can go on the roof and ponder this fear gem that I
is
have.
that actually why he did it, or is that your
Yeah,
theory?
yeah, yeah. That's what he
Oh, that's
did. Yeah,
okay,
that's what he
okay.
did. He's getting his own like
Oh,
thoughts now. It's another. It's kind of like the Antinium where they're
yeah.
starting to grow because he doesn't really understand. He's like, well,
Wow.
I want to be a warrior. I was born to be a warrior, but now I've got innkeeper in my status. Like,
Yeah,
why are you doing
innkeeper
this to me?
security. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, it's because Pisces made him to be like a security guard for her.
Hey,
Um,
this series could be going in a very dark place.
I think it could be. It could be interesting, but they literally just kind of killed off, and in a good way, all the characters that were really interesting to me.
Hmm.
So I'm like, you're gonna have to start that all over again.
Well,
I
it'll
don't know.
probably be a
I'm
lot
fine
more.
with that, and it could be very good. I
Yeah,
mean, like Magnolia is interesting. You know,
yeah.
the farm girlfriend of Ryoka's is interesting in her own way. You know,
Well, we'll definitely get more characters. I think we'll see more of the king and those twins come into play because that
hmm
king was on this journey. He's starting this campaign to discover the
yeah.
Earth and whatnot.
Oh god,
So
there's not to mention the other ones. And they don't
yeah,
even know. They still
yeah,
don't even know why they're there. Like
lots of yeah,
it was the whole like I just opened the door to the bathroom and now I'm in Never Never Land. It's like
exactly.
there's no sound or feeling. I'm just like there. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what's going on with all that? Who
Mm-hmm.
knows?
Mm-hmm.
Aaron was talking about a dragon in the beginning.
Yeah,
No news on the dragon. On that dragon at least that
yeah.
Aaron's talking about. So like,
That's right.
I mean, like there's tons of stuff that could be going on.
Oh yeah, it's going to be expanded very, very thoroughly.
We got to talk to your audience and see
Yes.
like
So,
maybe they could let us know
well, here's
like
the thing. Here's the
how
thing.
many books do we need to get into before this
Yeah,
starts
yeah,
really picking up. Tell us.
yeah. Um,
Give us a vote, like 2, 3, 4.
so on the last point, we end off with Ryoka getting a phone call on her iPhone. I think she has. So, you
Probably
know,
spam. Spam.
probably spam.
Like, hello? Oh, sorry, wrong number.
Yeah. That was interesting. That was kind of interesting, though. I
I
mean,
guess. I
I
mean,
wonder
I
wonder what's
they
gonna
just kind of like they're just kind of like for me. I
happen.
was hoping that would be where okay in the next book, Aaron and Ryoka meet and they like fix the inn together, and then
Mm,
they find their place in the world, and they really
yeah.
get like okay, well, she runs to town to get stuff for the inn or something like
Oh,
that, or
yeah.
like really starts to like cement her place in the world because she's just like doesn't know what to do. She like
Find
goes
some
to go to the
purpose.
door and is like, nah.
Oh,
It's like, okay, you've done this thing where she like goes to the inn, but Aaron's not there, or
yeah.
they go to the inn and then she screws off or whatever else, like three
Mhm,
times already.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, you're there. How many times are you gonna do this to
Well,
us?
in the next book,
Well, yeah,
you
this
know,
could be like 3 books from now. They're gonna meet up, and that's when it gets good. But I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
It's good. It's
well,
good. I don't know.
yeah, I think in the next book they'll probably have some dynamic between them.
I sure hope
Um,
so. That'd
but
be
I don't
cool.
know about that phone call. Like, what? I don't know what that could possibly be about.
Is your refrigerator running?
Oh man. Okay. Any other points you want to bring up before we end things here?
I mean, I just want to say that I don't think we think it's a bad book.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think that
It's not a bad book. It's
we're not
not
going
bad.
to say you shouldn't read this or
Yeah.
that this. I mean, it's a tough read,
Mhm.
and I don't think we knew what we were getting into when we started this. You
Well,
know,
we just went off the hype, man. Like I
yeah.
said, like we put up a poll. This one won by a landslide, and I've
Mm-hmm.
heard so much raving about it. So I think our expectations had a lot to do with this, um,
Mm-hmm.
with our with the results, and with our, I guess, not enjoying it as much as we thought we would. So that could probably be a big thing, you
Yeah,
know.
I don't think. I mean, because I was speculating on the mental health thing. It might be that. It might be part of it. I wish I knew if that was part of it. I don't know if it's that. I could see that being very, very good for that, like showing off some mental health stuff. Like that's really interesting to see in a book.
Oh yeah,
But I
yeah.
don't want to make that assumption and have it be like nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, fair enough. Yep.
but
But we
yeah,
we completed it. Hey, we
yeah. I mean,
completed this book. We gave our thoughts.
yeah. I mean,
And
it's I kind of interested to see how it goes.
mhm.
I just think that it's gonna take a lot of time to go through it, and maybe it'd be better for us to kind of like go through the revised versions.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe revisit it at a later time and
yeah.
start with the revised version. We won't be continuing at this time, but it's not off the table. We might come back to it later. It also depends on, the comments, what viewers say. The
Hmm.
more comments we get about people telling us to continue, the more likely we are to pick it up a whole lot sooner. So
Yeah.
it all depends on that, but it's not out of the picture. We're, we
No.
will at some point continue with the
Yeah.
Wandering Inn.
Yeah. For
But I think
sure.
our next read is going to be He Who Fights with Monsters. That's decided, book one.
Mm.
So looking forward to that as well. That was also on the poll. So I'm very excited for He Who Fights with Monsters. And what do you say we wrap things up here? So,
Sounds pretty good to me.
yeah, thank you everybody for viewing this. And
Hmm.
we will catch you on the next episode of Leveling Up with myself and Nick. And we'll catch you next time.
Right on.